I guess the upside to WrestleMania 10 was you and Owen have, maybe the best opener in WrestleMania history. And then at the end of the show, once you've won the title and you're having this big celebration, there's Owen in the aisle. And it almost feels like, he's been this bad guy towards you, but he must have been so happy inside of how well this was going.
He was really happy. Owen, I don't know if people know this, but Owen and me, like for maybe a month, I just started putting I'm a wrestling nut in the sense that I really take it serious, and so I know I'm wrestling my brother, and I wanted to be the greatest match that we could ever have. So I keep putting this match together and building it in my head for like weeks. And so Owen and me have this match, but it's got all these. Owen was a great high flyer, which I wasn't, but he could do a lot of stuff off the top ropes. And I said, we want to show everybody everything you can do. So we had this match worked out. It was a really beautiful match. And in some ways, the match that we could have done, the one that we planned on doing, might have been a better match today than the one that we had. Because Owen was doing all kinds of his best stuff. But it got to be like Thursday or Friday, just before we left for WrestleMania to go to New York. I remember I called Owen up on the phone, and I said, Owen, we got the wrong formula. This is the wrong match. It's the wrong match at the wrong time. Like you're going to have this match the way we've got it mapped out. You're going to turn babyface. You're doing so many great moves that they're going to start to cheer you, and they're going to start to boo me, and it's going to backfire on us. And so I told him, I said, meet me at my dad's house. Meet at our dad's house, and I'll see you there in a half hour. And this is on a Friday afternoon or something. We're leaving Saturday morning. And so Owen drives all the way up, and we meet, and we go into my dad's basement, the dungeon, and we completely reworked the whole match. Now I got Owen biting my fingers and poking me in the eye and cheating all the way through the match and doing every nasty thing he could, because it was really critical to the storyline that Owen is the bad guy, and he's got to be the bad little brother. That's the story. And so we had to really, make it clear that he's a bad guy. And so we changed everything, took out all the Owen's big moves, and we just put in more nasty stuff like him. If you remember the match, he's always biting my fingers and raking my eyes, and, did a lot of cheap shots in there, which was what he needed to do, because he's trying to be a bad guy. And it was necessary at the time. And I love the match that we had, the way we did it that night, because it was just what he needed at that time. But again, the main match that we might have done, could have done, which we've never did do, because it was never me and Owen in a babyface type situation. But I would love to have had the match that we originally had worked out. I would love to have done that somewhere for somebody, because it was a beautiful match.
Was it kind of cathartic for you that at the end of WrestleMania 9, it's this kind of bad experience for you with all the stuff that happens, and then at the end of WrestleMania 10, they've got all the baby faces in the ring hoisting you up and sort of celebrating you? Was that cathartic to kind of have that as opposed to the year before?
Yeah, it was. It was like when I lost the belt to Yoko with Hogan and the powder and all that. I was so pissed off. Like went against everything Vince told me, everything he'd been promising me and saying to me for the last 5 months. 7 years was a bunch of that I was going to be champion for 7 years, which is also the same thing I'm sure he told Yoko, that you're going to be champion for a long time. And then when they get the rug pulled out on them, they're pissed off at guys like me, and I got nothing to do with it. And the same with other guys. Wrestling's tough when they play with your head and play with your check, and what you get every week, and they lower it and raise it and that they do. but Vince was in charge, and you always just do whatever he tells you to do. But for me, I felt the day I lost the belt to Hogan, I remember saying, I give him 4 weeks. He's not going to last. Like he can't work my schedule. Like I worked every day, 300 days a year for 14 years. And if you include my dad, that'd be 21 years of working 320 days a year, which is a lot. Like that's way more than most humans should ever consider doing. But, I guess my point is I knew I was going to become champion again. I knew I was the top guy. I knew I was over, especially here in England and in Germany. I was over, like really over. And I had such confidence. Like I was like, they're going to come back and make me champion in a few months from now. And what happened from there was that when I won the title, or lost the title to Yoko, then it was like Vince calls me up and says, I'm going to win the King of the Ring now. And I could tell at the time, it's like, I'm going to win the King of the Ring, like why? And so they're going to make me the King of the Ring as a consolation to losing the world title. And I just wasn't really sure what they were going to be doing with me. And then Vince called me up on my phone. I remember thinking, what is Vince going to be doing with me down the road? And I remember figuring it out in my head. It's like, I'm probably going to wrestle Hulk Hogan at SummerSlam. Because it was like, we could tell it was like people were comparing us. And it's like, the fans are going to make Vince put Hogan against me because it's the one everyone wants to watch. And so in my mind, I just put a little bet in my head, like it's going to be Hogan and me at SummerSlam. And so this is just before the King of the Ring. Vince called me up on the phone, and he goes, I remember I couldn't believe it because my wife answered the phone, and she goes, it's Vince, and I'm like, Vince, like, oh. And I get on the phone, and Vince tells me within about 2 minutes that he's going to have me wrestle Hogan at SummerSlam, and I'm going to put him in the sharpshooter, and he's going to tap out right in the middle of the ring. And I'm like listening, and I remember looking at my wife and going, this is like a big call. This is going to, So I'm like, he goes, but don't say anything. I haven't talked to Hogan yet. So just keep that under your hat, but that's what we're going to do. And I'm like, great. He goes, I'm going to talk to Hogan tomorrow and tell him what we're doing, and then I'll let you know. And then it'll be real. And so then Vince calls me the next day and says, you're never going to believe what Hogan said. And he goes, Hogan said, word for word, is that I was never in his league, and that he wouldn't drop the belt to me under any circumstances, and that he wouldn't even work with me, period, and refused to work with me, which was funny because when I dropped the belt to Yoko, who lost it to him in 20 seconds or whatever, the first thing Hogan said to me in the dressing room was, just want you to know I'm happy to return the favor. And I remember when he said it to me, I looked at him and said, I'm going to remember that, Terry. I'm going to remember that. And I remember I made it really clear that I frankly didn't believe it. But now, so this is about a month and a half later, and Vince is telling me that I'm going to win the title and all that. But anyway, Hogan refused to work with me, refused to put me over, refused to do anything with me, and basically changed my destiny. And it's like he's going to drop the belt to Yoko. And the thing you need to understand is that the world champion at that time was the highest paid guy in the company. He got the biggest check every week, whoever the champion was. And I knew that from getting the checks that I got as champion. That I was finally saving some, making some big money, which was, what I've been waiting all my life for. And to have someone like Hulk Hogan, who a million guys made Hulk Hogan, And here he is, has a chance to make somebody and help me with my launch as Vince's the guy to take his place kind of thing. In contrast to Roddy Piper, who did all he could to make me as a star. Hogan wasn't like that. He wasn't going to make anybody. He was just an absolute piece of